Hey guys, I hope you're having a great day, and today I will be making a very short video. I'm really sorry about that, but I don't have a lot of time to film it, as I said in my last video. But I will be talking about Eliza and Her Monsters by Francesca Zappia. I listened to this book as an audiobook back in the beginning of April, and I absolutely fell in love with this book. I loved it so much. I give this book 5 out of 5 stars. I don't know how I did not see this book on my radar sooner. I have no idea why, but it's totally in my genre that I like. It's contemporary but not too much cheesy. It has a lot of death in the book, and I really liked all the subjects. There is a trigger warning for suicide mention, and depression. So if you're not well, if you're easily triggered by that kind of subject, of course I don't recommend this book, because it's not the main subject of the book, but it is a huge part of the story. In this book we follow this girl called Eliza Merck. She's a 17-year-old girl who has a very normal life. Generally, she goes to high school. She doesn't have a lot of friends at high school because she's very introvert and she's very shy. But she does write a comic series called Monstrous C, and she put it online, and she has huge followers. She has a huge fandom, and she makes a lot of money out of it because she can sell merch and other stuff, I think. The only thing that I kind of did not like in this book was the part where people would always make fun of her in high school. And I just felt like it was not that realistic. I feel like most movies and books represent high school as this very brutal place, and maybe it has been for some people. I don't know personally. I haven't been like harassed for not talking to people. Like I don't feel like if you're not talking to people and you're not causing any trouble to anyone, people won't be looking at you and people won't be making fun of you. But it's my personal view on this point. Eliza is so funny. She says a lot of stuff that is just... She could have her own stand-up comedy show, and I think I would watch it because she was so funny. She doesn't always say what she thinks, but it's really funny. So she's 17, so she is a little bit of a princess towards her family, which I kind of understood, but I've never been this harsh on my family. Maybe because I don't remember it being this harsh. Maybe I was, I don't know. But I remember when she was talking about her family, how everybody annoyed her for some very unreasonable reasons. I was... Maybe it's because I'm not 17 anymore and I don't understand that point of view anymore. I do remember my years as a 17-year-old girl, but I feel like it was less harsh than what she was experiencing. Her love for her comic series is totally contagious. I love Monstrous C, even though listening to it was a little bit harder to understand, I would say, because sometimes you have passages where you read about Monstrous C, and listening to it was a little bit complicated for me, maybe because there were some new words or it was on a different world building, I don't know. But I do prefer listening to contemporary as an audiobook, because I feel like fantasy is too complicated to just listen to it, because there are so many new words and I don't know how they're written, so I just get confused. So maybe I was too confused about that part to listen to it properly, but I really enjoyed her love for her comics and all of her characters and the world building. It was really cool. So as she writes this comic series, her pseudonym is Lady Constellation, and she doesn't want anyone to know that she is Lady Constellation. I don't really know why. Maybe just because you get all the attention on yourself, and maybe she really just doesn't want that, but who knows. In the beginning of the book, there is a new boy at school, and they meet, and he is called Wallace Werland. And he is really cute, not in a physical way. He's just really cute in the way that he acts and the way that he speaks. And I kept imagining, I don't know why, my boyfriend, because he's so shy and introverted, and I don't know why I felt like he was really tall and slim. And in the book, he is described as this huge football player, and I could not imagine him, Wallace, being this huge football player and just being so shy and introverted. And I don't know why I kept imagining somebody like very tall but very slim. I don't know. Their relationship was very, very interesting because Wallace is very, very shy at school and generally everywhere else, so he doesn't really speak that much. They will mostly write to each other, even when they're physically close to each other. When they're at school, on dinner time, they will write each other on a piece of paper instead of talking because they feel more comfortable doing that. I could not personally relate to that kind of conversation, but it was really interesting because that's something I've never read about before. Even though Eliza doesn't want to tell Wallace the truth about herself because Wallace is a big fan of Monsters C, she still develops a great relationship with him, but she always has in the back of her mind that she should tell him, but she doesn't want to. The writing style was so quirky and funny. I loved it so much. Eliza, primarily because she's the one talking, she's very, very funny, but all of the other characters are hilarious. It's just, I don't know, it was a comedy contemporary. The way that Eliza talks in the book is really, really funny, and just for an example, she makes hilarious comparisons because once with her family they play Monopoly, and she talks about how her brothers didn't want to play until they learned that they could bankrupt each other, and I just thought it was hilarious because who would think of that as an 8 or 10-year-old? Nobody. So now I'm gonna quickly talk about the audiobook part, just as an audiobook how I thought about it. And Kathleen Kelly, which is the narrator, was goals. I loved her so much. The way that she changes her voice when the character changes emotions was so amazing. I loved her so much. Her tone was always changing, always adapting to the context of the moment, and I love that. The only problem I had with the audiobook was that they send each other a lot of texts, and they always have like their username in front, because when you read it you want to know who's talking, and as I listened to it, it would always come up, the username would always be told, and it would confuse me so much because their username are like Merker Lurker, and there is one username that is like something underscore something else, and whenever it would come up I would never remember whose character it was, and it was just a little bit confusing, but apart from that, the audiobook was amazing. Maybe I'm too visual to listen to audiobooks, but at the beginning of the book, just all of the names were really confusing. Her parents, her brothers, even herself. At some point I didn't remember what her name was because, well, you don't always say your name when you're narrating. But maybe it's just because I'm too visual as a person, because I need to see the name. Because Monsters C, I thought that the name was Monster C, and I don't know why, because it doesn't sound the same, but whenever I would listen the word, in my head it was Monster C, and in reality it's Monstrous C, and I don't know why I made a confusion in my mind. The pros and cons of this book: pros, the storyline, I loved it so much. The relationships, all of the relationships, not only Eliza and Wallace, but all of the relationships with her friends and her parents and her brothers, it was very, very cool. I liked it, and it was realistic. And in contemporaries, there are more family characters, but I really liked that it was a whole family, because not all people don't have 2 dead parents and 1 lost brother, for example. The dedication to her comic was really, really nice. I really enjoyed it. And the suicide portrayal, I won't go into too much detail about it because I don't want to spoil anything for the people who want to read the book, but it was for me personally, a very accurate representation of somebody going through depression and suicide thoughts, and I felt like I could relate a lot to her character, and I felt for the first time in many years understood by a character who was actually thinking the same thing I was when I was going through that dark part of my life. So I loved it. It was great. The only con that I have was, of course, the fact that it was an audiobook with the names. It was just a little bit hard for me to remember the names and whose character it was, but maybe it's just on my part because maybe I'm just too much of a visual person. If you would like a spoilery review, just let me know down below. I won't have time to do a full one today, so I'm leaving the spoilery part for maybe another video if you actually want to know more about this book and what I thought in more details. But I would recommend this book to anyone who doesn't have trigger issues with suicide and depression, because that is a huge part. So I didn't know it was going to happen, and I was very excited to see it happen in the way that it was very genuine and real, and I don't know how, but I really liked it. So that was it, guys, for this video. I really hope you enjoyed, and I will see you next time with a new video. Goodbye.